Welcome to this tutorial on how to set up pupil groups in Charanga. It's a really useful feature allowing the children to access Charanga from home. You can set homework, you can give them tasks to do, you can have them practicing some of the songs that you've been learning in class or giving them some composition activities, using the rhythm grids, anything you like really. And it's very easy to set up. So I've got my laptop here. Let's dive in together and see how you set up pupil groups using Charanga. Okay, so here we are on the home page of artsfirstmusiconline.org.uk, which is where you go to access Charanga. Now, some of you who attended recent insets spotted that the homepage that I've got here looks slightly different to the one that you've got. And that's simply because Charanga have been beta testing a slightly different layout. So the area that we want is this one over here to the right, My Workspace. Now, if you don't see it there, you may have the older version, and you can see at the top of the screen here, we can click to switch to the older version. So let's do that. And we'll wait for it to load. Here we go. So this may look like a more familiar layout to you. The only difference being that over here, we haven't got the My Workspace. It's hidden away at the top here. We've got My Programs, My Workspace, Community, and so forth. So if this is the screen that you have, you'll access My Workspace up here. Otherwise, go to My Workspace here. It'll take you to exactly the same place, but that's where to find it. So, My Workspace and My Pupil Groups is where we want to go next. So, this is the My Pupils group page. Probably yours will look exactly like this. You won't have any pupil groups created. So we need to create a new pupil group. And a pupil group could be a class. If you're a class teacher, it's likely that you're going to be working with just your class. If you're the music specialist in your school, you may be visiting a number of classes, in which case you can just keep creating as many classes as you like. You can also use groups if you've got a particular group of children that have been working on one of the instrumental schemes. Maybe they've been learning the recorder or the ukulele. Once you've set up pupils, you can drop them in and out of any group. But let's go ahead and use the imaginative title here of Test Group. Create new pupil group. Here we go. So, there are no pupils in the class yet. Absolutely, we need to add some. So, click on Add Pupils in the tab above to do this. You can see we've got a few tabs here. We've got Add Pupils, an evidence base, Music World Dashboard, Moon Missions, which is something we may go into in a little bit more detail in a separate tutorial, and Instrumental World Access. As I said, if you're teaching some of the instrumental schemes, that's really useful. But for the moment, we're going to stick with the simple task of adding pupils. So, three ways we can do it. We can add a new pupil. We can add existing pupils. As I said, you've got ways of just keeping the pupil there and dropping them into different groups depending on the setting that they may be in. They may be in a class that you're doing some songs with. They may also be in an instrumental group. And then the take-home letter, which is something that will get generated so that parents at home feel safe and secure and know what's going on, and also the individual pupils can see their login, username and password. So, add a new pupil. Now, we can do one of two things here. We can add manually by putting the first name and the second name in, or we can do a very clever trick. We can add one pupil at a time. You can see here we can increase or decrease the amount. We may want to add 10, 20, 30 pupils, as many as we like really. Let's say you've got 30 in your class. You can go down one by one here, typing first name and second name. So we may add Joe and Blogs, and we could continue adding them one by one. However, a really nice, easy, neat trick is to do this. Most of you will have a class list somewhere on another document. It might be a Word document, it could be on an Excel spreadsheet, And the beauty of the website is that if we go to, for example, a little Word document that I've got here with a random class 4W's class list. As you can see, it's not a very big list, but it'll do for the purposes of our tutorial. We've got the Blogs boys, Matthew, Mark, Luke and John, of course the Smith girls, Mary, Joan, Miriam and Jezebel, and our French exchange student, Guillaume Le Grenouille. We can copy them. And as long as they're set out like this with a space in between, or on Excel it may be in 2 different columns, 2 different cells, it'll work fine. So we can copy those. We can come back to the Charanga website, and as long as we start up here in the top left-hand corner, we can paste, and voila, as Guillaume would say, we have all the names in here. And of course, if you had a class of 30, it would fill up to the bottom. So the next step, create the usernames and passwords. And this will give us a list, as we can see here. If we were to go to our Music World dashboard, we can see here a little bit more detail when the children have last logged in, so you can check and see if they're actually using it at home. The steps that they've completed. If you've set up some lessons for them, you'll be able to see that there. Coins. Now, coins are what the children earn when they've completed a task, and they can spend those making their avatars look really funky. We may go into that in a little bit more detail in a separate tutorial, so this doesn't go on too long. You can see how much time they've spent using the site, any other details, and their welcome letter. Now, this is worth looking at. We'll have a quick look at a welcome letter here. This is what you would send home to parents so that you can see that it'll be safe. So, for Guillaume Le Grenouille, it'll tell him, welcome to Charanga Musical World. It gives him the website to go to. It tells him here his username, P303590, and his password is going to be Forest. There are some other details on here. It can tell you what he can do. He can start to edit his avatar. He can start to earn some coins, and he can unlock badges. So that's a nice feature to basically let everybody know that it's safe and parents are informed, and parents can hopefully support the homework at home. So you get one of those for each of the children in here. You've got master files up here with welcome letters for every child. You also got a spreadsheet of all the usernames and passwords rather than having to log in each time to see individuals. So how do we now get information to those pupils? Well, if we go home, we can certainly go to the types of things that you'll be using. Most of you will be looking at the schemes. We've got my programs up here, and it's likely that you're going to be using Musical World as opposed to anything else. So we'll go into Charanga Musical World. Obviously, you've seen from some of the insets that we've delivered, you've got your regular scheme here that takes you from reception to year 6 in half-termly intervals, or you can use freestyle to pull out individual bits of music or lessons that you might want to add. But let's say we've been looking at something on the scheme. We had class 4W as our test, so let's go down and look at our first lesson that we might have done at the beginning of the year, which would of course been Mamma Mia. Now, if we launch our first step here, perhaps a simple homework that we might want to give our class is to simply practice and learn the song. So we may want to help them to learn how to sing the song, and we might want to add this particular bit to our class's group so the pupils can practice at home. Now, down at the bottom here, you've got groups, my lessons, sharing, download, and so forth. Here's a group, which is the bit that we're most concerned with at the moment. Add this lesson to my pupil groups. Clearly, if we had multiple groups, they would appear here in our list. We've just got our one test group, so that's the one that we want to add it to. Save and close. And it's as easy as that. You've now added our Learn to Sing Mamma Mia by ABBA to your test group or to our class. And let's just check that by going back to my Workspace, my Pupil Groups, We can click on our test group, and if we go along the top to moon missions, which is what we've just created, that'll make a lot more sense when we have a look at the pupil side of it in the next tutorial. You can see here that we've got Mamma Mia step 1 added. So setting up pupil groups is really straightforward, and you can add parts of the scheme to it just by clicking on that Groups tab along the bottom of your viewer window in the scheme. In the next tutorial, I'll show you what it looks like from the pupil side, and our Earth and Moon will make a lot more sense because those are areas that children can explore within Charanga when they access it. I hope you found that quick tutorial useful. Please contact us if you have any questions, and you can also follow us on Twitter @ArtsFirstCIC.